Celtics Stuff Live.
All right, so the Boston Celtics are going to be playing Cleveland on Wednesday. John and I are here, Celtic Stuff Live on CLNS Radio, the leading online provider of audio and video coverage for Boston sports. And this is a game I've had on my calendar for a while. I didn't realize that this game was going to end up being what I would say a pretty critical game. Cleveland escapes a double overtime victory against Indiana on Sunday night, John. They're going to play the Orlando Magic Tuesday night. They catch Boston on the second of a back-to-back. Boston, the first team to hit 50 wins in the Eastern Conference. I have them slated for 55. We talked about it on the last show. They're going to have to win out to get my win prediction, and that's all going to have to start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And we'll obviously talk about Jae Crowder, because they're going to need Jay if they're going to go 5-0. They've been 8-2 in their last 10. What are you looking for in the Cleveland game other than maybe more drama from Tristan Thompson?
Well, let's see if LeBron plays. I think there's still some debate as whether or not they'll actually who they're going to send. I mean, they've got Orlando tonight here Tuesday night. So I'm not sure who they'll send to Boston there on Wednesday night. Maybe that's the time they rest everybody. They played a whale of a game Sunday night against the Pacers, LeBron going toe to toe with Paul George. Paul George basically trying to be the one-man team because nobody on his team was doing much of anything to help him. And, so shockingly enough, it turns out that you need more than one guy to win a game, and, Cleveland pulls it out in the end. That would have been real nice to have a loss there for Cleveland, because that would have really set up a situation where no matter what happens in the Celtics game on Wednesday night, they'd still leave with a lead more than likely. But all that being said, you're right. It all comes down to this one. I think, when I first looked at the calendar, I thought, okay, well, that's a good kind of precursor to, the playoffs and getting ready and, hoping that, you get ready for that later on, thinking Cleveland would have had this whole number one seed wrapped up weeks ago. But, as you said, Celtics are the first to get to 50 wins. There's a real possibility that some of the teams that they've been kind of in the mix with, looking at Washington and Toronto, maybe they won't get there. I mean, look, Washington's at 46 wins. They've got 5 left to play. There's 6 left to play, and that means they got to win 4 to 6. Maybe that doesn't happen. They've got some tough runs. So, hey, this is what it's all about here Wednesday night. I feel like they win this, they got the number one seed in the bag, pretty much. I just don't see another way in which, with the few games the Celtics have left, basically 4 after Wednesday night, Cleveland will also have 4 left after Wednesday night, that if the Celtics are able to pull out a victory there, that there'd have to be some real funny business go on for the Celtics to lose out.
Well, let's say, I agree with that completely. So let's say Cleveland wins the game against the Magic. They both go in with the exact same record. It's sort of the tie-breaking move. I can still see the Celtics stealing first place if they drop that game to Cleveland, just based on what's been going on with the Cavs so far this season. But I can see it going the other way because Milwaukee, dude, scares me. And I don't know why, but they totally scare me. They kind of share the ball as part of it, and they've definitely got a huge mismatch with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Did I say that right? That was
close enough.
Wasn't ready. I didn't practice. You know what I mean? I didn't do my enunciation drills before we got on the show. But Antetokounmpo, I said it right. I definitely.
Antetokounmpo.
I think I
it's
blew.
Kumpo.
Is it Kumpo?
It's Kumpo.
That's
all right.
Well,
it doesn't matter. Hey,
you know what? That's why I usually just say
it's
Giannis, not Giannis. I keep throwing the G in there, but that I knew I messed up. So there you go. Yeah. I have no idea.
Greek freak. Just don't go with the
Dude,
that's all right.
How much muscle has he put on since he and Kelly Olynyk were drafted? His commitment to strength conditioning really is pretty impressive. I mean, he was strong,
yeah,
but he's gotten big.
it's not even about the big though. I mean, it's the length, it's the speed, it's the.
Oh, but it is about the big. I got to disagree with you 100%.
I don't see that.
No, I'm with you. He's got the handle. I'm with you as far as all the other traits making him a great player, and he'd still be a great player. But the fact that he can go to work in the post and rebound, you can't tell me that having some girth and some strength doesn't have a huge impact on making his game even that much more versatile. I mean, yes, being a point guard at that height and also the wingspan is just ridiculous. Like, it's not even just the height, it's the long arms but to be able to pack on that much muscle when you watch him body up a little bit in the post, and I understand he's not like back to the basket, but there's definitely some moves that he has where that upper body strength is totally coming into play. And the other teams might have tried to outmuscle him if it was just quickness. Like, just grab somebody who's fairly quick, double team him, and have somebody push him back. Lock him up a little bit. But I don't think you can get away with that because, yes, he's got the spin move and he can spin out of a double even. And, you can split the defenses really well because he's got that handle and he's got that first step and the quickness. But there's just times when you need to rely on strength. And I don't know how much muscle he's packed on, but he's probably put on, I'm going to guess 25 pounds looking at the pictures. And that's pretty substantial for an NBA athlete. 25 pounds is a good chunk of muscle. The game they probably should have won this past week really highlights a lot of it, though. Even Malcolm Brogdon, which we'll get into the Chad Ford, Kevin Pelton redraft 2016 probably in the second segment. But that's a team I'm kind of glad to see them streaking up the standings. I mean, I know right now if the season ended today, Boston would be in the 1 seed, and they would probably draw Milwaukee or Washington in the second round. And it might be Milwaukee who is streaking like Frank the Tank right now. But, see, I love Frank the Tank. I've dropped that. I'm good for a Frank the Tank reference about once every 5 months.
How can you not love a good Frank the Tank? I mean, come on now. Come on. But yeah, you're right. They're streaking, baby. And, they're all, they're headed for the quad. And, if I'm the Washington Wizards, I'm nervous. Not because Milwaukee is this world-beating team. I mean, look, there's a reason why they're 40-37 right now, right? I mean, it's not like they have all these players, but they haven't put it together. Brogdon's got some real promise. He can really play. Having Middleton back is a huge plus for them, but they haven't put it all together yet. And this is kind of their debut, kind of on the scene as a playoff team here. And if I were Washington, I'd want to play Milwaukee first round, probably more so than playing, Cleveland, Toronto, or Boston, but they still have not done it yet. And until they have, they're an easier mark, and I think Boston has some of that same issues. If I'm Chicago or Indiana, teams that have been there before largely, I'm looking at Boston saying, well, they've never won it before. And until you get that first series victory, I think people look at you as a team that really has a potential to be a little bit softer, not yet knowing how to get a W in the playoffs.
Well, that is absolutely true, but I think that's almost like a constant in the Eastern Conference over the last decade, right? So, unfortunately so. Well, you know what? I'll say unfortunate maybe for the Eastern Conference, but very fortunate for the Boston Celtics this year. I mean, a 50-win team, maybe 55 on the high end, probably going to land right at your prediction of 53 wins. A 53-win conference winner is a little crazy. So there's going to be questions abound. Injuries plagued the Eastern Conference though too this season. I mean, look at Toronto. They might have been the far and away winner in the Eastern Conference if they hadn't stumbled so much with Lowry's injury. And if he gets right for the postseason, they could storm through. They still scare me more than any other team, but they've got to be 100% healthy for that fear to really kick in. let's talk about the seeding a little bit more, but first, remind everybody, Celtic Stuff Live on Twitter at CSL_tweet live. Follow me at CSL_Justin, and John is at CSL_Duke. The entire CLNS Radio Network at CLNS Radio. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/CLNS fans, and download the app for iOS and Android. Simply search CLNS Radio in your app marketplace, and the YouTube channel, which is really going to be heating up. I guess all of the Celtics content on CLNS Radio is going to be heating up here in the postseason, but high definition, full length locker room interviews and the Garden Report with Jared Weiss. So yeah, Toronto still freaks me out a little bit. Do you think they're going to fizzle out though? Do you think they just don't get it right, or I mean, look at the trade deadline acquisitions. I mean, they got themselves poised for postseason. They've got some veteran presence there. If Lowry's healthy, it's not out of the question to see them in the finals this season.
I love the idea that that they might have to play Cleveland though. I mean, yeah,
that is beautiful.
I'm hoping this holds where it is, because I think it's the toughest, it's by far the toughest road for Cleveland. It's the best road for Boston. Would Toronto rather play Boston in the second round? Yeah, for sure. Hey, look, Toronto's good. I mean, they're a good team, and that doesn't mean that I guess what I'm saying is, they weren't that great before Lowry's injuries anyway. I mean, they were better than Boston, sure, but Boston had far more injury issues. If they were healthy all year long, I think they would be far above where they were too. So, the injuries, as you said, the injury bug kind of bit everybody except for Washington. Washington's the one team that really avoided that injury bug throughout the season. And Cleveland had Love out for quite a long stretch. Same with J.R. Smith. I mean, they've
and look at the injuries Washington's dealt with in the past. So that's almost kind of silly.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like, when is it going to happen? And it's kind of surprised it hasn't yet. But look, Washington, I think they ran so many minutes for those guys, and they're not accustomed to those many minutes over a season. I do think that they're tired. I think that's a tired team right now. I think they've just been straight ahead, whereas Boston, because of those injuries, is probably a little bit fresher than a lot of these teams. And we got to talk about, just kind of continuing on the Cleveland theme here. I don't think Cleveland is making a good choice here in how they've been operating here down the stretch. The amount of minutes that LeBron James, 50 some odd minutes the other night against, Indiana. I mean, why are they doing that? I get that LeBron gets to call his shot on just about everything that goes on with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But why in the hell?
We talked about that with Ty Lue before the show even got started. We'll circle back. But
why is that happening? Like, why is Cleveland letting that happen? Because now, when you look at seeding, right? So they're busting their humps to get to 49 wins right now in a battle with Boston to get that number one seed. And then it's going to be, what are you going to have left when it comes to the playoffs? I mean, we all know Cleveland has another.
They're figuring LeBron can will them to a win in a first round series. The same. I mean, look at the way the Celtics did it back in the day. After that initial championship run, they started to slip in the seed and still found a way to will themselves to victory in the first round, even having gone, even the first year they went down, like it looked like it was a pretty ugly, they had to go all seven en route to, banner number 17, which was pretty crazy. And you can see that happening with this Cleveland team. I mean, I don't want to start saying it's the end of an era, but
no, I'm not saying that.
But those, I know, but the slipping is there. The point is this is the first time, the tread on the tires has been worn down, and all of a sudden it was like you were out in the snowstorm and you felt something. Does that mean that you couldn't keep riding on those tires the rest of that winter and get to the next winter? Sure you could. But the point is, the slip is there. That's the first time we've really seen them slip, and, it's a lot to try to defend a championship. Just ask Golden State last year. But at the end of the day, I think, here's what I want to ask you. Let's say they somehow lose to Orlando, because I agree, there's some mismanagement. Maybe they try to get rested up for, the game against Boston on Wednesday. But if if they lose against Orlando, do you think they just completely concede at that point and go freshen up?
Well, I think they'll make a call on going to Boston before they even play. I think tomorrow they'll know what they're going to do.
You think they're going to do it anyway?
I think they're going to play in Boston. I think that they will. I've heard this the other way. Our good friends over on the J channel, Corrales and King were saying, he was saying, well, maybe they don't want them to travel. I don't think so. I think you sit them on the first night, you go to Boston, and you try to get that first seed back, because Lord knows it's going to be a whole lot easier with home court. Now, am I worried if I'm Cleveland that I don't have home court? No.
Yeah,
the way they manage this.
But hold on, if they rested in Orlando and then they lose it, what's the point of
you're not
getting it back?
They're not going to lose to Orlando. There's no way. That Orlando team is trash, hot garbage in a uniform. They're not losing to Orlando.
No matter who they rest, huh?
DeAndre Liggins, they're not losing to Orlando. No, that's not going to happen. Now, but even if so, they're gonna make that call before the game. I mean, I can't foresee that they're gonna give up the game against Boston, because, as you're right, they're conceding. They're conceding at that point to the conference. And I don't think the way that they've managed.
It is an ESPN game, and with all the criticism about resting stars, especially for those big nights, LeBron is a company guy, so to speak, in that regard. Maybe not with his coach, but certainly with the league. And that's probably all the impetus you need right there. That's why you throw it out there, but they're probably not even going to rest that many people against Orlando. They're probably going to jump out to an early lead and then justify, reduced minutes. Because, you don't want to have to play the second night of a back-to-back a little tired, and they are kind of triangulating their travel a little bit up and down the East Coast. But at the end of they're at home against Orlando, aren't they?
They're home.
Yeah, they're home. So they're not really traveling all that bad anyway. No. But you probably would also not want to rest completely after a huge battle on Sunday and then, rest KYRIE or LeBron against Orlando completely, because that's 2 days. They're going to come, they're already not really in a rhythm. They've got to get some minutes to try to work this thing. Like, look at the Celtics' approach to getting to the postseason. Al Horford's like, guys, we have to get ourselves in the right mental state. And he certainly is, because look at all of a sudden, he's just so aggressive. Like, we saw him drive the lane the other night, and slam it home. I mean, no defense whatsoever in that Knicks game. But you say Cleveland can't lose to Orlando, and I say Boston just almost did. So I'm not so sure that they can't. But at the end of the day, Al, the whole team, they're playing. They're not worried about fatigue. Maybe some of that is to your point, because so many people are rested just as a result of injuries. But they're trying to get right. I gotta think Cleveland's going to try to get as right as possible before the postseason as well. Do they have to rest up a little bit? Sure. So I think they come out against Orlando, try to build a huge lead, and then just reduce the minutes. But I'd be surprised if they sit anybody for that entire game.
Yeah, I think part of this is that I don't trust the management of their roster and of their minutes. I mean, quite frankly, partly, play LeBron 50 minutes against the Celtics. I mean, I think
no, I mean against Orlando. They'll play full against Boston. You're absolutely right.
But the larger point though is that what we're trying to figure out, like, rationally, what would you do? Rationally, we wouldn't do this. We wouldn't have LeBron playing 50 minutes against the Pacers. I mean, does it really matter if they're the 2 seed, the 3 seed, the 4 seed? It doesn't really matter. We all know that if they play to that gear that they can get to, they're going to beat all these teams easily, right? And we all know that. I love the Celtics, but if LeBron plays like LeBron did in the finals, it doesn't matter who's on the Celtics club at this point. If they have career games, LeBron is going to be here, and everybody else is going to be at a different level. And that's That's the fact of it. So I'm not trying to be, kind of down on the situation, but the Cavs are not managing this situation well, and there's very little logic or reason behind it. So we're trying to maybe they'll do this or that. It's like, if I'm Ty Lue, I'm telling LeBron, you're not playing 32 minutes from the All-Star break on. I mean, on average. And he's still second.
It wasn't a nationally televised
idiotic
game either, so I don't think there was pressure on LeBron to have this big shootout with Paul George either.
He's doing this on his own, and he's not realizing his age. In my mind, that's what's going on.
That's my point about the tires skipping a little bit. It's
starting
to show. It's starting to show.
No, I agree with you there. And the other thing is, the bench isn't what it was. And the other piece about that is, they don't have the pieces to build the bench around him. They spent all their chips to get
they mortgaged it all.
J.R. Smith.
That's right.
And Shumpert. And so this is what they got. And if they can get guys off the scrap heap, this is like what happened with the Celtics in 10. This is like the 2010 Celtics right here. This is the third year of LeBron. It's the third years of 3 max guys on the roster. Okay. And in the first year, you had young players. They weren't able to get it done against the Warriors. Second year, who made people believe, including myself, that the 09 Celtics would have been better than the 08 Celtics. KG gets hurt. It doesn't work out. In that case, Cleveland wins the title last year. Okay, this is year 3 of this core, right? Now look back at what the 2010 Celtics had. There was no PJ Brown. There was no Sam Cassell. Things.
Was that the year they brought in Shaq? Is that when they pulled in Shaq? Or was that a year later?
No. That was after that.
Yeah,
they had, that was when they brought in, Rasheed Wallace, and so the core was still there in large part, but Posey was gone. You didn't have the bench. You couldn't afford to keep the bench you had 2 years before. And so it did start to slowly slip away. More was on the backs of guys like KG and Paul and Rondo and Ray. And okay, so now you got to put more on the back of LeBron, more on the back of Kevin Love, more on the back of Kyrie Irving. And I think that's kind of the tread slipping. It's a great analogy. Now, the Celtics club was about 6 minutes away from being a champion. And that could happen to this team too, but I think this Warriors team is better than the 2010 Lakers by a long shot. And I also think that this Eastern Conference, if it can kind of get its head together, it doesn't have the head cases the 2010 Eastern Conference had. We don't have pre-Miami LeBron. We don't have Dwight Howard here. This is it's a different group of teams that the Cavs have to go through. And I think it's going to be a tougher road. Do I think Cleveland gets through if I were a betting man? Yeah. But, what we're seeing right now, you and I talking about the minutes, to me that's indicative of where they're headed as a franchise. And I'm feeling like maybe maybe they're not at the end, but their ceiling is lower than we would have anticipated even a month ago.
Even lower?
Yeah, definitely. Because they don't look at the last time they played, right, Justin? Remember when they came in, and I don't know if you remember the lineups, but they tried to go with a real offensive minded group in there with LeBron. Like they had Korver was in there, Derek Williams was in there, Darren Williams was in there. They were trying to find some ways to get some offense, but they couldn't stop a nosebleed, right? And then it's like, okay, well then let's get Shumpert and let's give Richard Jefferson.
You're right. It's like Ty Lue is just throwing it against the wall. Yep.
They don't have lineups that can do everything. Like they have lineups that do one thing, but they can't do both things. And I think J.R. Smith's return is really big for them. If he can play anywhere low to the level he was in the playoffs last year, that's huge. That's huge for them. But the team we saw last time, Celtics could beat that team in a 7-game series.
Well, that'd be nice. And hopefully we'll get a little preview on Wednesday. But it's going to be so much different in the postseason. Those lineups even will all of a sudden do different things. Even if J.R. Smith isn't healthy, it'll just be different. It just will be. And that's what the postseason does. The postseason changes everything. And until I would love, and again, I'd love to say we see Cleveland stutter step in that first round and we go, oh yeah, there they are. They're slipping. It's that tread. But again, we can go back to the Celtics even in the championship run, but several first rounds, or the first round of the playoffs in the second coming of the Big Three era, they stuttered in that first round. It was almost like they had to cut their teeth. And they often finish the season a little funky too. And, they would sometimes limp to the finish. And some of that probably was their age, but there, again, you can draw some comparison, at least towards LeBron. And I think you make a nice point about the bench and the supporting cast. They've mortgaged that so they don't have one, or maybe not like they did. But at the end of the day, this team is vulnerable, maybe, but we're not going to know until the second round. It would be awesome, to your point, if Cleveland and Toronto could kick the crap out of each other for that second round. That would be, even if Boston faces Milwaukee, well, you know what? Boston and Washington could be a kick around as well. The only thing is there may be some merit to what you're saying. Washington may have just run out of gas.
That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, I think that's what we're all hoping for, right? Is that the gas tank is empty. It's on E. You know what I mean? That's what we're all hoping for. I think LeBron is capable of that higher level. If I'm Ty Lue, I go to LeBron and I say, look, if you're healthy and you're feeling good, we can limp through a first round series and get our act together in the first round. No matter who we're playing, whether it's Milwaukee, whether it's Indiana, Chicago, whatever, any of those first round series, we can figure it out. It's the second round where we need to be ready. And in a 4, 5, 6 game series, they can get that right in the first round. I would shut him down for 2 weeks, just like that little sabbatical he got a year ago when he went to Miami for 2 weeks that he took off. And he had an unbelievable finals. I think he's going to need that to get his body right. LeBron's not the problem in Cleveland, but him being
he's not going to be the solution if he's trying to be the solution every night down the stretch heading into the postseason.
He's got to be he's got to be the solution in May and June. And he's not going to be if he has to be the solution in April. Take the L's, go further down the Eastern Conference, seedings, and then kick it in when the seedings are set and then beat go your way up from underneath. I mean, in 2010, okay, the Cavs were the 1 seed. I believe they were the 1 seed going into it. It might have been Orlando, but they were among the top seeds there, right? Boston had to come back from lower in the bracket to kind of come up and punch their way up. And he saw what happened there. It didn't matter that Boston didn't have home court through much of that playoff run. They were a stronger, tougher team. And Cleveland could be that same team. I hate to sound like I'm like their advocate here, but
when nobody else is, because you're basically saying, why aren't you guys doing the right thing? Why aren't you taking care of yourselves? Why aren't you positioning yourself? You're right. I mean, if this team could be afforded the luxury of playing these kinds of minutes at the end of the season, it'd be because they've already won 60 games. They've locked up the number 1 seed and rest has already come. At this point, making the fight isn't even worth it. I see your point. Boston, because of the depth and the rotations and the fact that starting lineup hasn't played enough minutes together, they almost have to do this. But the wear and tear is low, except when we come back from the break, we have to talk about Jae Crowder. So first, a word from Blue Apron and SeatGeek. Blue Apron's mission to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. Blue Apron knows that when you cook with incredible ingredients, you make incredible meals, so they set the highest quality standards for their community of artisanal suppliers, family-run farms, fisheries, and ranchers. And for less than $10 per meal, Blue Apron delivers those seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. The plated food, I'm telling you, it looks the same. It's not hard to cook. I got a couple of more meals coming my way this coming weekend. I'm pretty excited about that. You can customize your recipes each week based on your preferences, and there's no weekly commitments. You can take a couple of weeks off, which I actually did the last 3 or 4 weeks. Took a couple of weeks off, but going to be home the next week, so the wife and I are going to cook some of these meals together. The ones that are up and coming: spinach and fresh mozzarella pizza with olives, bell peppers and ricotta salata, sweet and sour salmon with bok choy, carrot and ginger fried rice, and Parmesan crusted chicken with creamy fettuccine and roasted broccoli, and then also baby broccoli and fontina paninis with hard-boiled egg and arugula salad. See, John, I love it. I'm always good for not knowing one of these foodie terms. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Celtics. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. That's blueapron.com/Celtics. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. And as the Celtics playoff push heats up, and it really is heating up, we've got just a little over a week and change coming up. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every game, and I know you're going to be getting yours. If you're in the Boston area, you're going to be going to one of these playoff games. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing like being in the stadium for the biggest plays of the year, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. SeatGeek saves you time and money by searching multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. And to get you the most bang for your buck, SeatGeek rates every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. And it doesn't end with sports. SeatGeek also has plenty of concert, comedy, and theater tickets available too. I think I mentioned I bought tickets to the Hershey Bears recently, but Jim Gaffigan is another personal preference, a suggestion there for tickets. I know he's on tour, and best of all, our listeners will get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. So to get your $20 rebate on tickets, download the SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab and click on add a promo code and enter our promo code CSL2017. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase. So download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code CSL2017 today. So yeah, John, Jae Crowder, the elbow weirdness, that's got me a little freaked. This starting lineup does need time together. We thought we were kind of cruising, and Avery Bradley missed a game because of the flu, but then he misses another game because of the flu. I think that's throwing him off a little bit, and we really don't know what to expect in this Cleveland game, and no updates as of the time we're recording this. So, we'll still have plenty of time by the time everybody listens to this before the Cleveland game, a full day and a half anyway. But there's been no updates. The Jae Crowder weird elbow freaks me out a little bit. Do you remember that season? And it wasn't the season Paul dealt with all the knee stuff and everything, or the ankle. Like, was it the knee or the ankle?
Well, he had the elbow too. Remember,
but he had the elbow, but that was a season before, right?
I think it was
when he missed all that.
I think the elbow season was 2007, which was the foot, also the year of the foot, because he had
foot. That's right.
Remember, because he came back and he had that elbow pad on when they first got the KG guys together. It seemed like he was comfortable with it for a little bit, and then
for some reason I thought that the elbow was bothering him the season before the foot injury, or maybe that's when it started. I looked back a little bit because I started thinking about it when I heard the weirdness, and then Brad Stevens made the comment about he didn't know if it was his bursa or not, and Paul was struggling with bursitis, and they were just sucking fluid. I remember talking with JB about this on the show, all three of us, and they were just sucking pus out of his elbow.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we want. It's the last thing we want to see from Jae Crowder, especially because you know what's going to aggravate that? Contact. And this is a guy who's going to need to be able to take contact. If we find out it's some weird malingering thing, and hopefully it doesn't hold him back like the high ankle sprain, but if it is a bursa and he winds up having bursitis, that's going to freak me out because that's a lot of management in the postseason for a guy who's probably the most likely to take contact throughout the postseason. I mean, he's the dirt dog.
Yeah, well, and the other piece of that too is that, like, I mean, thank goodness it's not a shooting elbow, right? Because that would be, you know, not disastrous, but
to take away that 3-pointer,
that'd be a big problem.
It would be an issue.
Well, if you're a 40% shooter, I mean, they need him. They need his scoring, right? So, I mean, you're right. Anywhere is bad, but if I have to choose, I'll take a left elbow over a right elbow for him. But you're right. I mean, he's got to be healthy, and unfortunately, you know,
no, I just mean that would definitely hurt them. I know it's just a 3-pointer, but had it been the shooting elbow, it would really be a killer in the postseason.
Sure. No, I think that he's, you know, we're going to see what this is all about. The tingling thing is kind of weird. That doesn't seem like a tendonitis issue. I mean, that just seems like it's I don't know. I was thinking more of a stinger, but then, you know, to see it blow up like that, that's not, you know, usually if someone, you know, gets some sort of nerve deal, usually you're not going to have, you know, swelling like that. So it seems strange that we haven't heard anything yet. But maybe they were getting some time off. Right.
So what do you do in this case? They didn't rest him last year. They kind of made him, you know, play through that high ankle sprain, or maybe they didn't make him. I think he chose to, was actually what wound up being reported, that he fought through it, and he never had a high ankle sprain. I mean, you just told me what Cleveland should do. What are you going to do in this case? You're just going to put him on the shelf and hope that it sort of inflammation goes down and everything corrects itself before the postseason, and then you sort of roll the dice with whether or not he gets heated back up in time in the first round?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to, until we know what it is, right? I mean, it's a hard thing to say. Is it a tendon issue? Is it I don't know. Is it a bruise issue? I mean, I don't have any sense for what we're talking about here. I mean, if he can't re-aggravate it, you know, then, you know, I'm not as concerned. I mean, high ankle sprain's a little bit different. I mean, that's something you can redo and redo and redo. Of course, tendonitis, if it's that's just overuse anyway. So yeah, maybe you do shut him down under that scenario. I think it just depends upon what the prognosis is for his, you know, for what's going to happen there. But, you know, look, after this game against Cleveland, okay, here's the thing.
It's so funny. I just pulled up the schedule and I started doing the exact same thing. They don't need him to finish strong.
No, they don't.
But they do need the starting lineup to get minutes together preparing for the postseason. I mean, that's one of the biggest comments that Horford had, and Horford is definitely out there playing at a different level than he has all season long. Like, he is gearing up. There's no doubt. And it would be nice if he was gearing up with a healthy starting lineup so that they could all kind of get used to what he's going to contribute in the postseason that maybe they haven't been 100% used to throughout the year.
Well, I think that they need continuity and they need time together. You're right about that. But what are they going to get here in the last 5 games? You know, I think that they're going to have to find that in the playoffs at this point. I mean, when they play together, they play well. But, you know, what are you going to learn playing against Charlotte, Brooklyn, a failing Hawks team, you know, a Bucks team that may rest some folks? I mean, it's hard to get anything out of
Well, hold on. We need him for the Nets. We need him against the Nets, and this is why the Nets all of a sudden are playing well. They're on a little, I mean, for the Nets. For the Nets, they're on a little bit of a run.
Sure. Sure. There are people out there that are worried about the Lakers. I mean, that's not happening, folks.
I'm not worried about that, but I don't want to lose
that's
to the Nets
happen.
in the second to last game of the season.
Right.
And the Nets have played us tough, and they've gotten better. This will probably be the best Nets effort we'll see all year.
Look, there's a 4-game gap between Brooklyn and the Lakers. Okay, if Brooklyn and they've got this is crazy. They've got 5 games to play. So if Brooklyn hasn't lost between now and then, and the Lakers haven't won between now and then, that will clinch the thing. So I fully expect it won't matter at that point. The Celtics first round seedings in the East will be far more at play than that. But do you want to lose to Brooklyn? No, you don't. But is that a game where you could rest some people? Probably. That's probably the last game you have where it really doesn't matter at all.
That's a Marcus Smart show off game in the waiting.
Sure. Yeah. Let's let Terry Rozier go nuts in that one. Let's let Tyler Zeller.
Terry's been hot, and we could definitely. You almost want to see that second unit, even though we know that won't be the way that the rotations play out in the postseason. There won't be wholesale, trade-offs. There'll be a guy coming in here, a guy coming in there, maybe 2 at a time. But the starters are going to play a lot of minutes, unless there's a blowout going on.
Right.
However, that second unit, the Jaylen Brown, the Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, Kelly Olynyk, and I guess Jerebko, right? Because we want to get Jerebko. He'll see some postseason run. Probably those 5 guys. Wouldn't be bad to just start them in that Nets game and see what they're made of. They're going to falter, but hopefully the seeds will all be determined at that point. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Yeah, you're right. I think so. I think they will. I mean, look, that second unit is really where you're hoping, your bread is buttered, I suppose, and it's unfortunate we don't get a chance to see Yabusele play. This would be a great opportunity for him here in these last few games, but actually the Red Claws.
That was such an excellent transition right there, because we have Yabusele on deck.
It's almost like we planned this before.
Done. Yeah, I was going to say, you're like, it's like you're a pro.
It's almost like we've done this for a few years, 10 years, 10 long years.
It's been more than 10 years.
More than that. Almost a decade, right? We had a decade?
No, 10 years.
12 years? We had dozens?
That's awesome. I think we're closer to almost 15, bro.
No, not 2002. We're not that far back. 05, right?
04, 05, right? Yeah.
So Baker's dozen.
05. Wow. Yeah, it's been 12 years.
So, hey, this is, we've done this. We know what we're doing. So to continue that trend, look, I mean, Yabusele, right? Can we go there? Can I go there right now?
Absolutely, dude. You are loving on Yabusele.
He's my guy.
And he's in Maine. He's wearing the Red Claws unis. We've talked about this before.
Yep.
He had a shorter season in China, I believe. And so he gets to come stateside and play some minutes with the Red Claws. Obviously, we're not going to see Zizic or anything, but the highlights are impressive. And he is like we thought that Big Baby was an athletic wide body.
Nope.
Yabusele puts Big Baby to shame in terms of athleticism.
He puts Big Baby in the corner.
You've been waiting. Dude, the way that rolled right out, and then you were already laughing at yourself before you finished, you've been waiting on that.
I have.
Have you not used that on Reddit or Twitter yet? Or did that, you saved it, save that gem for the show?
Not the last time I used it either. Get used to it, folks. Long-time listeners know Big Baby was not a favorite of mine. But Yabusele, on the other hand, is a favorite of mine. It's kind of funny how the worm turns like that. Yep. But Yabu, my guy Yabu here, I mean, look, he goes out there. I mean, second game ever in the United States. Forget D-League. Second game in the United States, 20-10. Okay? Plays
and
like 25 minutes.
The three.
Oh yeah,
And he's got a fairly quick release for a guy. Like, this is why they compare him to Green.
Right. He can't defend, though. That's the issue. That's where it's going to hold him back from getting minutes next year, is that defensively, he's not there at all.
Yeah, he's almost like Sullinger a little bit, and he'll be able to get the rebounds, and he'll be able to box out, and he'll be able to do some of that dirty work. But will he have the rotations down? Big question mark.
Yeah. That's why we won't see him probably right off the bat next year, is that defensively, he loves to call for the ball a lot. Hey, the old, when you're playing pickup, you're clapping your hands, you get your hands up, wave, come on, give me the ball. I'm open. Like, hey, yeah, we know, guy. There's like four other guys here that can put the ball in the rim too. The thing is, of course, as a fan, I want to see him get it because I want to see what he can do. But yeah, he is, that kid, not only is he just athletically just a freak, but he battles for those rebounds. I mean, offensive glass in particular is really a strong point for him of really getting into the glass, creating opportunities for him and his teammates. He's got a pretty good eye. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a playmaker. That's where the Draymond stuff falls off the map, because he's not the playmaker Draymond is. He's certainly not the defender Draymond is, but he has that burst and that ability to protect the rim. It's a question of his intellect and his want on that end. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you're not watching D-League games, if you haven't come to Maine, look, they're in the playoffs. They're going to have 1, maybe 2 games in that first round. Come on up if you haven't already come up here. Go to the Expo, check out a game. And if you haven't, they got all the games are on Facebook. So my son and I were sitting down watching the game on Saturday night as they were closing out against the Windy City Bulls. Won that game pretty handily, and it was great. I mean, oh my gosh, it was Yabu, baby, and which leads into the next thing.
Dude, I love it that you went to the game. I mean, that's just even.
I watched it.
Oh, you watched the game. I'm sorry. I thought you said you went to the game.
No,
I'm surprised you didn't.
I watched it. I will watch as many Yabu games as I need to, because he is my guy. He's my guy. All right. He is. You've got I was just going to say, you sound worse. Like, if Yabu was here this season, and it was Jaylen Brown and Yabu was going off shooting threes, even though he was getting destroyed on defensively. Sit him.
That's what you would say. Remember all those power forward minutes that my boy got? You would have been like, why is he getting those minutes? Why is he taking those minutes?
Very salty. This would be a very salty podcast with that type of.
It might be next year. It just might be next year. We'll have to see what happens in the off season, but it could get ugly.
I think Jalen's going to play more than him. No, but you're right. Yeah,
look, I'm pretty sure of that too. I'm confident.
Although it didn't look so good for him Sunday.
No, yanking him after what, like 90 seconds or whatever? I can't remember how far into the game it was, but no, he did not stay out there.
Jared Weiss had a really smart thing that he wrote on Twitter the other day, where he said that it wasn't like earth shattering, but he's like, Brad Stevens is breaking down Jaylen Brown as a person and rebuilding him in his own image. And I thought,
that's really awesome.
I basically what he's doing.
It really is.
I mean, he is the guy who you saw at Cal is not the guy who you see right now for the Celtics at all. And the type of thing that he did to start that, and Jared said this before the Knicks game. I think it was on Saturday actually. To go from, pull him out and then you put him back in. That's the mark of, I'm going to take your Jaylen Brown love spot for a second and say that's the mark of a mature kid. Because a lot of 20-year-olds would have gotten pulled out of there and would have gone
fade, wilted.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he went in there and had a good game. Had a great game.
It's a good thing that Kevin Garnett isn't on this team, right? Because
I think he'd like him though.
Oh, he'd love him. But
I think he'd like.
But where you talk about somebody, getting broken down after a quick yank, and since we already brought up Glenn Davis, you could see Kevin getting all up in Jalen's mug.
He would, but I think Jalen would take it. Although the funny thing, I don't know who was that said it. They were doing some interview and it's like, who's the guy that thinks who's the smartest on the team? And they said, oh, Jalen thinks he's the smartest of the team. He's not anywhere as smart as he thinks he is. I thought that was kind of funny. I don't remember who said it. It might have been Jay. That might have been a Jae Crowder comment, but. Hey, we got to talk about this top 10 thing. Can we get to that?
Yep. Let's hit that, and then we'll close out the show. Since you brought up Yabu, why don't you tee it up from there?
So here's the thing. So Kevin Pelton, Chad Ford, they redrafted in effect the 2016 draft, right? Who are the top 10 players in that draft? So if you redraft them, what are the order, right? Both guys said Ben Simmons, unquestionably number one guy. Hasn't played a minute, right? But as you'll see here, as you keep going through,
I can still buy into that though, because if he had, he would have. It's still not debatable. Not yet.
I would say as a Duke fan partially, but really as I think someone who watches, I think they diminish a bit of what Ingram can do in this. I think it's a bit unfair. And you look at the second guy. So Pelton says Juan Hernan-Gomez from the Nuggets. And Ford says Skal Labissiere is the number two guy. Look, I think they're in the conversation, but I would certainly not pick them number two. I mean, come on. That's lunacy, I think. I mean, they try to discuss it in different reasons why they would, but they both.
Would you throw a Marquise Chris up there a little bit?
Not at that point.
He was one of the youngest players, right, in that draft. And I know it's with Phoenix, and I know a lot of young players are getting time, but look at how much he contributed to the end of that game when they beat the Celtics on the road. And I know it's on the road and yada yada, but his athleticism. I mean, are they doing it solely based on performance this season, or are they still doing it with an eye to the future?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's both.
I know the answer, right?
Yes,
I was going to say, yep. So keep going.
But I would also say that I would take Jaylen Brown over Marquise Chris too.
Absolutely.
I mean, you check at the year-long, production and potential, right? So then now it starts to get interesting. So Pelton takes Brogdon 4. I think we all agree Brogdon's had a hell of a year. Might be rookie of the year, right? I mean, really phenomenal year. Ford takes Yabusele. My guy, Chad Ford, we might be boys again. I don't know.
He's got connections to that front office, though, in Boston.
Right. He does.
Tight with Danny. But ahead of Jaylen Brown.
Right, ahead of Jaylen Brown. Now, this is where it really gets interesting to me. Both guys take Zizic 5th. So Pelton takes Zizic above all the Celtics draft picks. Ford takes Zizic ahead of Jaylen Brown.
I don't understand because there's so much limited information. I know they're not watching games from overseas.
No, they
maybe
are.
There's a David Blatt connection too. Maybe there's, for Zizic and, obviously he coached Cleveland just a year and a half ago. So they obviously, I'm sure they have a line to David Blatt if they need to, get a scouting report on Zizic, but that's pretty high praise, man. And as much as I know teams are high on him, there's no way they've watched him play anything to give him that kind of confidence yet, right?
Well, I mean, look, he's doing this against men over there. Men who can come over here and play. I mean, he's productive, on the highest stage. I mean, he's playing EuroLeague. I mean, it's not like he's playing, when we started the year, he was in the Adriatic League. He was playing, equivalent of not even D-League ball. I mean, maybe like a mid-major type. And
right. He made the adjustment well and has gotten crazy. Yep. He's gotten good coaching.
And he's playing against men. I mean, he's an 18, 19-year-old guy and he's playing against men over there. So I think that, and people say rebounding translates no matter where you go. You know what I mean? We talked about this a long time ago, looking at, who you should take coming out of the draft. And the rebounding is the one, metric that seems to carry through no matter what level you're at. It's good rebounders in college are good, pro rebounders and so forth. So the fact that Zizic is playing as a big over there, I went into a deep dive on YouTube this weekend, watching a lot of Zizic, a lot of Yabusele, or Yabusele.
That
I'm still not sure about that one.
the definition of a deep dive.
It was, but man, I mean, it's hard not to watch that. And I'm not watching just the, super highlight package with like, some sort of house mix, stuff that will probably give you epilepsy if you listen to it long enough. But I listened to it. It was play. It wasn't just, kind of the best of the best. You saw good, some bad. You can't help but think, both those guys, one, they could really help this team right now, I think, but two, that the potential is there for something really special, and it allows you to make trades with guys on the roster and then have those two come in and eventually be part of a winning core on rookie contracts. So it just really, really positive, and so to look at the Celtics now, both Ford and Pelton had Jaylen Brown 7th. So
how much of this could be a play though to increase their trade value as well and kind of put them on the map a little bit? I mean, that people around the league have that insider, subscription, and that they read that stuff. Chad Ford has been a very long-standing draft expert, right? So how much of that is, doing Danny's work?
It could be. It really could. You know what though? Like, I feel like I think sometimes we overplay how much impact what those guys say has on what actually happens.
I just Googled Zizic,
and
the first image that popped up is a picture of Chad Ford and Danny Ainge hugging.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Okay. What is that?
I just mean, like, I'm telling you, I think there's some posturing here. I do. I mean, look, I'm excited about the players.
Well, why Pelton? Why would Pelton do that? Like, it doesn't make, I know what you're saying, and yeah, I mean, I get it, but like, at some point, like, okay, Skal Labissiere second, Juan Hernangomez second. I mean, this isn't like, I mean, you could argue with what
you're right. The whole thing is a little oddball. It's not just one or two. I agree. I mean,
Jaylen Brown below both guys seems a little bit crazy to me. I mean, to go through those 5 of each of those guys, I mean, Bender, Ingram, Brown, are the last 4 of those 10 from Pelton. Brogdon, Bender, Chris, Brown, Ingram are Chad Ford's last 5. Like, good players, but it just, it seems a little bit strange that they would use this as an opportunity to say, well, look what the Celtics have done. All I would say is,
where did Buddy Hield go?
Well, unless you're Vivek, you don't care about Buddy Hield, I guess. I think it's about production and as you said, potential. It's, you kind of know what Buddy Hield.
Interesting combination. Yeah.
I think that there's, this is a snapshot in time, right? I mean, it's, a year later and now what do you think? But frankly, could I see, Brown being better than every player in this draft? Yeah. Brogdon, I mean, for Chad Ford to put Brogdon 10th is nuts, but it's a fun thing to debate about and all that. A lot of people are going to dislike the fact that Yabusele and Zizic are so high, but to me, they've earned it. I think that they deserve to be in that conversation as top 10 players who were drafted in this. I think the potential is there. And let's also do this. Let's give kudos to a guy, even though they haven't played a minute for the Celtics. Let's give kudos to Austin Ainge, because Austin Ainge is the guy that's been overseas.
We talked about it, that this draft could be his legacy with those, like,
absolutely
a big part of his contribution. The club made a major investment in getting overseas and talent and scouting talented players, and it was really all on Austin. This is his baby, so he will be remembered based on the the performance of these two picks, even if they don't end up ever playing for the Celtics, even if they get moved in trade, it'll say a lot about, the club's move. I don't know that. I think those are two players the Celtics not only may want to keep, but may have to keep this off season to create depth on the roster for next year.
Right. They don't cost any, they're assets that don't cost anything. And while it might be tempting to use that as a sweetener in a trade, I think I'd rather give up a draft pick, an unnamed, unknown draft pick than give up two guys who I think are worth more than a draft pick right now. I think apart from the Nets pick, they may be the Nets picks. They may be the two most valuable assets the Celtics have that don't have a dollar attached to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's no cap number for those guys. They may be the two most valuable aside from those Nets picks, and they may move ahead of the 18 Nets pick, given how well the Nets have played of late. That Nets pick may not be a top 1, 2, 3. It may be a 7, 8, 9 next year. Who knows? I'm very.
That seems like a stretch. I still think the Nets are going to be a bottom 3 team in the league next year. They got to weather one more draft before they really make their move.
Sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. Oh man!
All right, so we're on the stretch run. We're really after Wednesday, just waiting for the postseason to begin, and we've got a good solid 2 weeks before that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, 4 games: Atlanta, Charlotte, Brooklyn, and the Bucks. And it's a waiting game at that point to see what happens with standings and everything. But I think by Thursday we're going to know whether or not the Nets pick is going to be number 1 or be the worst team, and probably we'll know if Cleveland's going to start resting some people. I think over the long run. I think they should, but I think they should have done it long ago too. So what the heck do I know, right?
Has there ever been a team? I know we talked about how the Celtics are going to hit the postseason and have the number 1 pick overall, and I haven't seen this yet, and maybe everybody already knows the answer, and we'll end on this. Has there ever been a team that finished first in their conference and had the first pick in the draft the next season, or that same season?
I think I've heard no. That's never happened.
Bizarre.
But can you imagine? That would be absolutely
bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for this week, everybody. We're going to be back in a week's time, and we'll wrap up the very end of the season at that point. Have a pretty good idea, as John said, where's the pick going to be, or at least where are the lottery odds going to be for the Nets pick? What's the seeding going to look like? We'll be able to break down, hopefully, some anticipated postseason playoff positioning and first-round matchups. So this broadcast is going to be available on demand on the CLNS Radio mobile app as well as clnsradio.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at CSL_Justin and at CSL_Duke. Big thanks to everybody for tuning in. You can help support this show by subscribing to Celtic Stuff Live on iTunes and Stitcher. Don't forget to give us a rating and a review. We value your feedback, and a reminder that today's show was brought to you by SeatGeek and Blue Apron. They've got a great deal for all of you listeners, but most importantly, you would be supporting our show and the entire network. A big thanks to the loyal CLNS Radio audience for making it all worthwhile, and for staff writer Samuel Elias, executive producer Larry H. Russell, the founder of CLNS Radio Nick Gelso, and my co-host John Duke. I'm Justin Poulin. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Celtic Stuff Live.
Celtic Stuff Live.